Hi everybody, and welcome once again to The First Step. My name is Gary Labe, and today we are going to be talking about creating silhouettes. I'll be creating some tribal silhouettes for you guys in just a minute, but I wanted to talk a bit about what silhouettes are used for in concept art. So a concept artist, when they're coming up with a new character or new designs or several iterations of a character, silhouette is a good way to quickly sketch out different ideas on the page using with the same character, and what they do is they help give the viewer a chance to read that character from afar. In order to make the character more recognizable, they need to have a really solid silhouette so that when the character is shrunk down in games, you can tell, oh, that is so and so, and so yeah, these are just a really quick way to get down a lot of ideas, and I'd like to walk you through my process for creating silhouettes. So let's get started, okay? So my process for painting silhouettes is pretty straightforward. I use sort of a brush pen set to 100% opacity, and I'm just using 100% black as well. And I start out by just blobbing out a general gesture, and in my head, I want to paint a tribal chief character, so what I'm doing is I'm keeping that in mind as I'm drawing, and I'm trying to make the silhouette as interesting as possible to change up the shape, so it's not just one large bulky shape, but it's broken up by curves and by the natural form of the body. And when I start to carve out the black part, I'm actually just color picking the gray background and painting back in. I'm not actually erasing. And that sort of frees me up. That leaves me one less tool to have to use. So I do that inside the silhouette as well as outside the silhouette to carve out final forms and stuff. And this is a really quick, sloppy, it's a really freeing way to paint where I don't have to consider line or anything like that. I can just, all I'm thinking about is where the light is coming from and how that light is going to affect the form while I'm painting. When you start painting in the gray details of your silhouette, or when I do, I'm trying to think of bigger shapes. So I started with the shoulder pads, then worked my way down the arm a little bit. I'm making little marks here and there, but what I'm really thinking about is how it's going to read from afar. So as you can see, I've cut a little hole where the arm will separate from the body, and where the legs are separated, you can see the sort of skirt hanging down. That'll be like a fur from an animal that he's killed and hunted. And as with most of my other paintings, while I'm working on this, I'm asking questions about who this character is and answering them. And those answers will dictate, the choices I make when creating the silhouette. I find this to be a very forgiving way of creating characters, because whenever there's the possibility of screwing up, the pose is wrong, there's something wrong with the anatomy, I'm able to fix it immediately just by painting it out and then repainting whatever form I had originally intended to paint. So when I blob in like a big shape, like the cloth hanging over the shoulder, if I mess that up a little bit, I can just go back in with black and then try again. Like I said, it's very forgiving and a lot of fun to mess around with. So this probably goes against most practices of concept artists, but I've taken to throwing in bright white into my silhouettes, which I guess technically makes them not actual silhouettes, but I like to add just that little bit of extra dimension to them to help their readability. And it helps for me to get a greater sense of the character and, you know, the light source, etc., etc. So you don't have to throw in white, but I enjoy doing it. I find the silhouettes more appealing that way. Now that we have our chief in place, I want to create a crone or a wizened sage woman who's stooped with years of knowledge and secrets, and I thought that might be a fitting addition to our little tribe here. And I don't want her to be a large woman. I want her to be a little Yoda-like, actually. So I start with the posture as usual. I have her leaning heavily on this cane or staff that she uses, and she's gonna have this hood that covers her face, but her eyes, filled with wisdom and years of knowledge, will be glowing. I've also decided that she's going to have like this big pack on her back that's filled with tinctures and potions and runes and whatnot for magic spells, and she's a really fun character to work on. In my head, this character is actually very frail, very thin, but she has layers upon layers of clothing on to protect her from the elements, from harsh winters, and to keep her tiny body warm and protected as much as possible. Because she doesn't wear armor, she's not a fighter, but she is a survivor. So that was one of the main things I wanted to portray in this, was that she's independent for an old person. Okay, now that we have a crone finished, it's time to create a warrior. And as I've been playing Horizon Zero Dawn, I want a really strong female character. So I start again, as I did with the other two, by creating a pose and focusing on where the light is coming from. And I want her to not be encumbered by heavy armor. I want her to be able to move, and I want to give her a very tribal-looking sword. And those are the aspects that I had in mind when I started this particular silhouette. I thought maybe she would look cool with a shield, some kind of a like a Scottish targ design, but then after trying to wrestle with it, I decided that's just going to look awkward, and it's not going to help her silhouette read very well. So I get rid of the farther away arm and just stick with the sword. My thought was to give her a series of belts that looped around her waist that give her access to these pouches that have different traps or different devices in them. A little Batman-ish, but more on the tribal side of things. And I think the only piece of armor I end up giving her is this slightly large knee pad that you can see right now on the left. I'm sorry, her left, our right. Yeah, she was a really fun character to work on, and then along with that tribal sword, that should wrap this character up. So after wrapping up this particular concept, I'm going to resize them all so that they're all proportionate in relation to each other, and then I want to create a presentation for them. So if you're handing these off to your lead or to an art director, they're a little bit more professional looking, a little bit more finished. So all I do in this one is throw a gradient in the background, and I'll have to erase out some of the lighter gray that is painted out around the characters in order for them to look normal. But yeah, that would wrap up this set of concepts, and then I would send these off to my art director or my lead and for review. And then next week I will see about taking one of these silhouettes and doing a paint over of it to take it to more of a final render. So as I wrap this up, I want to thank you guys for all the support, all the subscriptions, all the likes, and all the sharing. In the past couple days, the number of subscribers on my channel has climbed to over 200, which may not be a lot to some, but it means everything to me, and I really appreciate it. As usual, you can follow me on Twitter, on Instagram, and follow my book series as it progresses on Facebook. Thank you so much. If anybody wants this brush that I'm using in this video, please let me know, and I'll be happy to share it with you. Thanks so much for tuning into the first step this week. I really appreciate it, and we'll see you all next week.